new project here on the Fandom Podcast Network, live on our YouTube channel, exclusive to YouTube only. It is the Fandom Show, our roundtable show of everything that is going on in fandom. This week, we are joined by a plethora of Fandom Podcast Network representatives. Of course, I'm Kyle, one of the co-founders here on the Fandom Podcast Network. But this week, to join our panel, we've got Fandom Podcast Network royalty, I'm going to call it. Their egos are going to run wild. I'm creating a monster, and I know it. But I am here first and foremost with Mr. Kevin Reitzel, my fellow co-founder, and of course, host of not only Culture Clash with me, but of course, Blood of Kings as well. Kevin, welcome to the Fandom Show. We're going to see how this plays out.
This is really cool, and I'm excited about this because when we opened it up to YouTube, we wanted to have some exclusive content for the YouTube subscribers. And so it's easy to find us on YouTube, Fandom Podcast Network. But this idea wasn't mine.
Yeah, this is true.
It was not mine. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, our friend from across the pond, the host of Type 40, our Doctor Who podcast, the gorgeous Mr. Dan Hadley.
Good. I was going to say, you need to know out there who to blame for all this, don't you? Really?
Exactly. Kevin and I are taking the blame for this one. Sorry.
So let us know in the comments section afterwards who's to blame for all of this. Me for coming up with the idea, or them for saying yes? The jury is out. But it's lovely to be here, guys. I'm just glad that you took the idea and you've ran with it, and here we are, and here you are too. So this is going to be an experience.
So Dan, let's go ahead and get into that real quick right now. Let's talk about why we are here, why we are introducing the Fandom Show to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube subscribers. What is it that what is it that came to you about how you wanted to do this and what direction you wanted to take this show?
Well, it struck me that the network is getting bigger all the time, as are all of us. if our heads maybe too big for our headphones. Yes, but the network is getting bigger all the time. And there's all these fantastic conversations that are had, the length and breadth of it. And we remind people of that on every single show, don't we, with your wonderful show reel thing. But, I think after time, people may think, well, it's fine, but I don't know if I really want to get into that. And how does this cross over? I'm kind of interested in that, but enough to listen to it for an hour. We need to grab people. We want to grab you. And if you hear us talking about all of these things and with a little bit of banter, and a little bit of the sort of the warm Fandom Podcast Network energy that I believe is unique to this network, I know that people are going to love it, and people may find their next, second, third, or fourth favourite podcast all on one network. So we are doing you a favour. That's how I look at it.
Well said, Kyle.
Yeah. Why am I hosting this show? No, this is going to be fun. For you in the state, for those of you who are watching in the States, the best thing I think you can compare this to for what we kind of have an idea for our format here. And this could morph as we go along. This is our first show. You know how things work like that. If you're a sports fan, kind of maybe like Around the Horn, the sports debate show, or if you're familiar too with the Great Debate on the Sci-Fi Channel, kind of in that kind of vein, we're going to hit a lot of different topics, have a kind of a main topic we're going to focus on, and you can all just get our generally bad ideas around here. So
we might a cross pollination of ideas from different corners of this wonderful genre that unites all of us and all the shows that we work on. Good God, how can it not fail? How can it fail? Oh, you know what I mean.
It's getting timey-wimey around here already with our Type 40 host. But before we get any more into this, let's tell you where you can not only find this great show here on our Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, but all the great shows of the Fandom Podcast Network. And it all starts on our homepage at fpnet.podbean.com, where you find the master feed and different pages for all of our great shows. Of course, we are on all the major podcast catchers, including one that we're working on, which we're going to announce very, very soon. We're just waiting for the finalization of that. And as well, too, you can follow us on social media. You can visit the Fandom Podcast Network Facebook page. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Fandom Podcast Network, or on Twitter at FanPod Network. Of course, I'm Kyle. You can follow me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom, as well as finding me on Culture Clash and all those kind of things. Mr. Hadley, where can people not only find you, but Type 40? things? 'Cause I know you have a lot of things going out with Type 40 now these days.
Yes, well, Type 40, the main podcast, obviously. You can find that on the Fandom Podcast Network's master feed and all of those places. But it is supported by a fantastic Facebook group, the Type 40 Facebook group, which keeps growing all of the time. And it's just as lively when the show is on the air as when it isn't, which is pretty fortunate, really, because Doctor Who is hardly ever on, as everybody knows. But there's lots of conversations to be had in there about classic Who, about new Who, on TV and audio and in books and all that sort of thing, and people showing off their collections in the same way that our Kevin is right now. All that goes on in that Facebook group, but we've also got a great Facebook page too, which people sort of share that out, really, even to other groups and other places. That's a bit more that's a bit like a shop window, really. And we've got a nice Type 40 Instagram account too, which, well, Instagram, it's all visuals, really, isn't it? So we put things about the podcast up on there. Sometimes there's little personal snaps that we don't share anywhere else. So there's always something a little bit different everywhere that you can find Type 40.
Yeah, I want you to give a quick shout out to the other group where we actually found you in the first place, that we consider our kind of our UK brother sister over there, and and of course that's all you and all your lovely friends over also on the Spacebook, because I know you've been doing some fun YouTube stuff there as well.
Yeah, there's the Spacebook YouTube channel, which is sort of connected to this because we do lots of after shows, I suppose you could say, all supporting the Type 40 podcast and all those conversations. But yeah, things on the YouTube channel tend to be a little more chaotic, but haven't been doing that for very long, but we really do enjoy it. And some of the voices that you hear on the podcast, you will also hear over on there as well on the Spacebooks channel. Yeah, that's true.
Kevin, you're not really up to anything, are you?
No, I'm just sitting around doing nothing, watching you guys.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You got all kinds of things going.
I just want to give a quick shout out. I love that Facebook group because not only do you throw a bunch of like worldwide pop culture stuff on there, Dan, but I love it when you throw up stuff that was very popular in the UK, because I love learning about that stuff. And we got a little bit of that in the 80s and the 90s on our public broadcasting channel. So it's nice that you update us on all fandom, and I love that. You can find me, of course, here on the Fandom Podcast Network. My contact information is Spartan_Phoenix on Twitter and, of course, on Instagram. And I am the co-host for Blood of Kings, our Highlander podcast. My fellow co-host is Lee Fillingsness, where we cover all things Highlander, not just the movies, but also the television series and all of the other stuff around that. We've got a great Facebook group there called Blood of Kings, a Highlander fandom group. So please check that out. I just found out we just reached 2,000 members. So that's awesome. Really, really cool. And of course, you can find me on the other shows here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I co-host with Kyle on Culture Clash. We also do the End Zone. One of the other things I'm heavily involved with is Couch Potato Theater, the podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network discussing our favorite movies, and several others on the network there. So that's how you can reach me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of our network here, we're going to take a quick minute. We're going to go a little bit around the network and tell you what you can find and what's currently going on around the Fandom Podcast Network. And obviously, if you're watching this show, this is the first episode of the Fandom Show live on our new YouTube channel, Kevin, which you and I launched about a month ago now. And of course, all of our great shows end up in audio podcasts on YouTube, but we do Culture Clash live, and exclusive now to the YouTube channel is our football show, The End Zone, which we are doing live, and of course bringing great mediocre fantasy football advice to everybody.
Yes, for people that live outside of the United States, the NFL is the biggest sports entity in the United States. Football is very, very huge here. Kyle and I are big, passionate fans of our teams. Kyle with the Chiefs, the championship Chiefs, by the way, and my now Las Vegas Raiders. And so we have fun. We're going to be doing that weekly, keeping you guys up to date on what's happening with our teams and the NFL, and of course fantasy football, which is extremely popular over here in the United States.
Yeah. Dan, what's going on over at Type 40? You've been up. I see you on. I'm the tech guy, so I get to see everything. You've been up to a lot on Zoom lately, so I'm assuming there's some big things coming for Type 40.
There are. Yes, I mean, you could say what's been going on Type 40. Anybody who's been listening to Type 40 will know that we've gone on a little bit of a break. So we've just finished what I've termed season 2. That wrapped up a couple of weeks ago, where we had a nice big chat with our friend Kenny Smith from Big Finish. Now, Big Finish make all the audio Doctor Who adventures, as I'm sure plenty of people out there know. Oh, and the Highlander stuff as well, Kevin. They had Highlander audios.
Big Finish is awesome. Their production value is great. When they did those Highlander audio books, man, the work on those was just gorgeous.
Yeah, and that was a few years ago now. It was about 10 years ago. So they've really come on in leaps and bounds. I'd love them to do more Highlander. But yeah, Kenny's a big guy with Big Finish. He edits their magazine Vortex, does a lot of their promo stuff. So he came on with myself and Sarah Graham. Of course, Sarah's been on the show since show 5 or 6, something like that. And we behaved like it was the last day of term. Like, and it was all like it all went a bit loud, but we did stay on topic a little bit. But Kenny talked quite a lot about how Christopher Eccleston is coming to Big Finish to do some audio.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny, real quick. The last time I visited London in 2018, Erin and I went to go visit her old stomping grounds at Forbidden Planet, where she used to work years ago. And down in the basement where all the books and stuff are, there's a huge shelf full of nothing but Doctor Who audio books by Big Finish.
That sounds about right. It's the same at the Forbidden Planet in Birmingham. It's exactly the same. Yeah. But yeah, that was the last show. We're having a bit of a break. So that's the end of season 2. Season 3 of Type 40. We're already recording that, as Kyle has noticed, with several shows in deep on that, with some fantastic interviews. So with the same mix, when we do come back in a few weeks' time, it'll be the same mix of reviews, old and new, interviews with people from the Doctor Who community, and general silliness. But the one interview in particular, I still can't quite believe, Kyle, that I managed to get this guy to come and talk to me. Can't wait for people to hear it. A real Doctor Who legend coming in probably about 4 or 5 weeks. You have to check that out.
That's what you call a tease, ladies and gentlemen.
That is so cool.
Yeah. A few other things going on here around the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, we have our Star Wars podcast, What a Piece of Junk. It's gearing up for Mandalorian season 2. We're going to be all over that. I think they got something kind of special planned on that, but I'm going to let them announce that. But that announcement's coming soon. Of course, Star Trek's finally starting to gear back up, Kevin. So that means the Union Federation is going to come back. We're working on rounding out the crew. We might have a surprise for people when the next season of Union Federation starts up here shortly. And we're going to kick things off, Kevin, by talking about Lower Decks.
Yeah, Lower Decks is about finishing up now the first, not first, but second animated Star Trek series since the original one from the TOS back in the 70s. But yeah, this is a wonderful addition to the Star Trek universe, Lower Decks. It has brought a lot of humor to the Star Trek universe. There's a lot of major, wonderful call outs to what's happening. It kind of takes place during the Next Generation era. And so there's a lot of call outs to what's happened to the Next Generation crew, which is very funny. So we're going to be celebrating that by looking back on this first season, but also looking forward to the new season of Star Trek Discovery coming out in October.
Yeah, October 15th, Star Trek Discovery premieres here in the United States. We will be back to a weekly broadcast of that as long as Discovery is running. Obviously, it's been a while since programming. It's been a while since Picard ended. Who knows when Orville season 3 is coming out?
I'm waiting, baby. I'm waiting. I can't wait.
But we got a lot there. Of course, we have our good friend Adam O'Brien, the Lethal Mullet, doing everything he does on his Lethal Mullet podcast, covering all those 80s action flicks. And of course, he's gone a little bit off the rails with a little too much spice, and he's launched the Mullet Guild side podcast of Lethal Mullet, where he's covering everything that is Dune. And just no more spice for Adam. That's all I'm saying.
I just want to give a shout out to Adam. He's doing a great job with the programming. He's coming out with stuff every week talking about all these great 80s, 90s action films that were huge hit on video and VHS. A lot of nostalgia there. He's been sharing some great videos by oh gosh, what's his name now? Scott Adkins has his own YouTube channel, The Art of Action, where he's been talking about with all of these action stars from the 80s and 90s. And Adam's been sharing his stuff on the network as well. And Scott Adkins, if you don't know who he is a martial artist extraordinaire. He's done so many action films. He's worked in a lot of major action films, including Doctor Strange, The Expendables, his own films that he's starring in. So just a shout out to Adam for keeping the world of action alive. Great job, Adam.
Yeah. Of course, too, Time Warp is covering the films of 1995. We got one more episode of that will be coming later this year. Also, Adam is working with Mark Newbold on Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast. I think they just recorded a new episode here, not just a couple of days ago. So be aware, we're going to see a new episode of that. That's covering everything classic in Trek from the original series up through even some stuff that's going on now, but they do a great job in covering a lot of great memories from Star Trek. Of course, Brandon Shea Matala and Tom Caldwell and Chris High are still cranking things out in the nature of suspense with the Alfred Hitchcock podcast, Good Evening. And there's going to be some developments with that, I think, very soon, but I'm going to let those guys announce that. Kevin, too, hair metal. I know you got some ideas for that, including possibly, are we going to have a crossing of the streams of podcasts?
Yeah, so I've taken a little break from hair metal, but it's still alive. We still got the Hair Metal Fandom podcast Facebook group, which we love talking about 80s and early 90s hair metal and all the artists and what they've been up to since then. But yes, we're looking at doing a kind of a crossover, which Couch Potato Theater celebrating, I think it's the 2000 film Rockstar, starring starring a Wahlberg brother,
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, because we're going to be talking about the soundtrack, focusing on the soundtrack on the Hair Metal podcast. But then we're going to be doing the movie itself, and that movie was loosely based on a true story with Ripper Jones, I think his name is, who took over for Judas Priest when Rob Halford went his separate ways for a while. So it's kind of based loosely on that story. We're going to be talking about that because it celebrates the 80s, early 90s hair metal genre.
Yeah. And lastly, we do have Couch Potato Theater, and we're going to have some fun with that because we're coming up around Halloween time, and we always have a little extra fun with Halloween here at the Fandom Podcast Network. Usually we do a special core film Halloween thing, but Kevin, we're going to make a month out of it this time around, and it's
Yes,
a very
we
special
are.
themed month.
Yes. What's great is we've got 5 Fridays in October. The first Friday, we're actually going to be releasing one of the 80s comedy classics. We recorded with a new friend of the family here. We're going to we recorded Real Genius, the 1985 comedy classic. So that's going to be coming out. That's done. Lacey Adderhold was our new guest that joined us with you, myself, and Lee.
And wait. She did mention to make sure to get that Taylor Lautner mention in.
Yes, the real co-host, right?
From Alex Autry, you owe me money now.
Inside joke. But yes, Kyle, we are celebrating the Halloween month of October. We're going to be celebrating with one of the funnest things about Halloween, and that's vampires. The first episode of this we're going to be running, we did a podcast of The Lost Boys that came out in 1987. Last night, as of this recording, I recorded with my lovely fiance one of our favorite vampire films, also came out in 87, Near Dark. Then we are going to be having a new special guest on. Following after that, we're going to be doing Blade. The following week, the great Wesley Snipes Blade movie from the 90s. And then not vampire, but the second to last night, October 30th, we're going to be doing a live Couch Potato Theater Devil's Night, known to some people there in Detroit. We're going to be doing a live Couch Potato Theater for The Crow, and then we will release that as an audio as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be a special podcast. That movie is really special to both me and Kevin's, and we're going to take a lot of pride in doing that live podcast. So a lot of fun things on Couch Potato Theater.
But real quick, I just want to give a quick shout out to one of our very popular shows that we just released, where we did the awesome movie, the 1987 Predator film.
Yes.
And we had the entire Predator Dragon Con costume group, including Johnny K, who's been a guest on our show, as guests talking about that classic Arnold Schwarzenegger action film, The Predator.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. Of course, and we have Culture Clash, which is bringing you all the latest in fandom news and reviews and whatever crazy stuff Kevin and I can come up with. So a lot going on around the network. But let's get this show started as we're launching a new era. We got our YouTube channel. We're excited. This is exclusive content to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. You get notified when we do great things like this.
And like the episodes, if you're
Yeah.
listening to it, give us a little check mark up there. That helps us too.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, we're going to go around the table, the fandom table to be specific. This is going to be our section where we're going to hit on the news topics of the last month. If we have any major breaking news, like right before this podcast, we'll be addressing that. Otherwise, we're going to just talk about, kind of go down the list, talk about the major topics in fandom, maybe try to hit up our guests with some things specific to their podcast that they talk about, and then just whatever else comes up in the news. So let's go around the table. So guys, couple big top stories. We got a couple major trailers in the last month that are two huge ones with fandom. So let's start with the Mandalorian trailer. This is a trailer that people have been screaming for months. Everybody with COVID and everything like that shut down. We knew the show was coming in October. The Mandalorian was a huge hit season 1. Season 2, we get our first trailer. So I want to talk about reactions and what we're looking forward to in season 2 of The Mandalorian. You know what, Kevin? We kind of talked about this on Culture Clash. We haven't heard from Mr. Hadley yet. Mr. Hadley, I want your input on Mandalorian season 2. This Mandalorian season 2 trailer. I know you're with the child.
I'm very much so. That's just the way I walk. No, yes. Oh well, it seems to be giving me everything that I could have ever wanted from season 2 of this. More of the same, but bigger, brighter, going for the throat. All the things that I love so much about season 1. You know, the energy, the old school charm, and the fact that it still felt really, really new and fresh. It seems to be doing all of that, but bigger, bolder. I'm not quite sure how many episodes it is in season 2, if they're the same, because there was 10 in season 1, wasn't there?
Yes. Yeah. Was it 8 or was it 10, Kevin?
That's what I couldn't quite remember.
Say that again.
8 or 10 episodes in season 1 of The Mandalorian.
8.
Yeah.
It was 8. I think they are doing 10 this time, aren't they? I think there could be more. I'm hoping there's more. Yeah, just keep making it. I mean, it's amazing that they've managed to make it at all, considering over the last 8 months. I genuinely can't wait. I wouldn't say this has restored my faith in Star Wars, but I think it was the shot in the arm that Star Wars needed at exactly the right time. It's got a great lead character, so evocative, and lots new too. And there's lots of new characters, lots of new actors joining in, some new characters, but some old characters from other shows too, and that just fascinates me. So yes, put me down as a definite for that.
Kevin, you had adventures with your own version of the child over the weekend. Raider child. I feel I got to come rescue that and bring it to the.
This is a Raider baby Yoda right here. He was huge in Las Vegas. I'll tell you right now, man. People were rubbing his head for luck. It was great. He even made it on live television. I just want to say.
Well, you know, they know what brings in ratings around Vegas news.
I do.
Yeah. Well, no, it's the little guy in front of you. Come on now.
I know how to work it.
But Kevin, I mean, this trailer, I know you absolutely love this trailer.
You know, what's interesting is I had plans to go to the Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim in late August, like many, many other people did. And we probably would have gotten some type of teaser Mandalorian trailer. We probably wouldn't have got the one that we saw, maybe something a little bit different. But it was worth the wait. It gave us just enough to kind of tease. I think they probably showed most of the stuff that happens in the first few episodes, obviously. But with all of the rumors of the casting and which characters might show up, and there's so much speculation, and none of this stuff was like, you know, stuff that came directly from Lucasfilm. It's hard to say what we're going to see. And so I've been kind of distancing myself of all of these rumors and stuff so I can kind of start fresh. The Mandalorian trailer I've watched twice, and I'm like, I'm done. Because I want to kind of forget what I did see.
That's exactly what I do when I watch
trailers. And I'm just going to dive right into the first episode and just live through it week by week, as our friends Scott, Derek, and Nathan will cover for the Star Wars podcast, What a Piece of Junk, and just kind of live through that right now. But I'm so excited. But Dan, you mentioned something that is very important to this series that fans love, is the shout out to the original trilogy. And not just the original trilogy, but like the Ewok films, the holiday special, all this stuff that we love that we might be missing a little bit in the newer Star Wars, just because we want to see shout outs, and seeing the 501st from California get involved, and all that stuff that we saw with the Disney show, looking at the behind the scenes of
I
the
think this
Mandalorian.
has got Kevin compared to. I'm not gonna dig in. I'm not gonna put the boot in now with the sequel movies because I know there are a lot of people out there who really really love them, and I get why. But I think what this has got is flavor, real
Yes,
flavor.
great way to put it. Flavor. Yeah.
Yep. I'm very excited for this. I love the fact that the child looks to be even more incorporated in season 2. Obviously, the scene where the child sees where the Mandalorian's about to activate his weapons, and then
His
brings
gauntlet of hell.
brings the cover down, and it's just classic. The child steals the show. I cannot wait for this. October 30th cannot come soon enough. Very excited about the Mandalorian trailer. However, there's another trailer that a lot of people consider just as big as the Mandalorian trailer, and it's probably right now, as it stands, maybe the biggest movie of 2020, and that is Dune, because Dune still right now is standing at that December 18th release date. A lot of people have been waiting a very long time for this trailer. Adam O'Brien, I think, just has it on continuous loop in his eyes. But um, I've been looking forward to Dune. I knew visually it was going to be incredibly impressive, and that trailer showed that to me. My concern with Dune is that Dune is one of those movies and stories that we have to see how it translates to the big screen and how it's brought. But the visuals of this and how the characters look, I absolutely fell in love with that. I'm very excited for this. Kevin, I know you might have some reservations considering you're not as high on Denis Villeneuve as some of us are, but this movie did visually look spectacular.
Yeah, it does. I like him visually, and he's kind of hit or miss for me personally, but I think he's one of the upcoming biggest directors that we'll see, because visually he's great. And like Sicario is one of my favorites of his. I love that movie. The new Blade Runner was entertaining story wise. It wasn't the best, but visually it was fantastic. The Arrival I wasn't a huge fan of, but visually it was great. But I think that when it comes to this property of Dune, I think he's the perfect director for it. And this is what makes me excited about it, because when you hit Dune, visually, you got to hit your marks on this. But the biggest question to me is the story. It's going to be a 2-part movie, which I think is great. It'll give us enough time. I was not a fan of the original David Lynch film. If I need to go to sleep, I'll just watch that film. But the sci-fi miniseries I thought was fantastic. It gave enough time to tell the story and flesh out the characters. And I think they have the right director. I think they got the right project for this. This makes me excited.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this too. I'm really hoping it maintains this December 18th date. One of the big things too about this, Dan, is the cast is just phenomenal for this film.
It's breathtaking. The people they've managed to get into one film, and you think to yourself, I wouldn't even know where to start to begin listing them. But it is. It reminds me of old Hollywood, and that words that get bandied around a lot now, probably where they shouldn't be. I think iconic is one of them, and another one is epic. I think that people have used the word epic up so much that when we see something that is actually, truly, in every sense, epic, some people might not be giving it the attention that I think it really, really deserves. I think Dune is. It would have been. I think it would have always have been the biggest film of 2020.
Just
Regardless.
quick on the cast you mentioned, Dan. We got Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, Josh Brolin, David Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, Oscar Isaacs, Javier Bardem, Charlotte Rampling. It goes on. This is just insane casting.
It really, really does. It's proper international, cross-generational. Dave Bautista is in the same film as Charlotte Rampling.
I know, right?
Do you think that would ever happen? So you've got all this, and we said this director. He is the pretender to Nolan's crown. I think the man with the populist touch, but who is capable of bringing something to screen that's quite literate. I'm not sure if it's connected. I think a lot of people feel the same about his work as you do, Kevin. Generally, that it's been a bit of a sort of winding road rather than a straight sort of plough through the way Nolan does. He takes no prisoners, Nolan. Villeneuve, who I've only just learned to say that, Villeneuve. With him,
Have I been mispronouncing his last name?
I don't think anybody noticed. I think nobody noticed. But with this movie, I think it could be the perfect marriage. And obviously, there's people out there. Adam is one who hold this property, this universe, so dear, and I'm most excited for them. This is long overdue, and I hope this is the beginning of something that really, really lasts. But more importantly, in the here and now, give us one damn good, big, epic sci-fi movie to finish off a pretty terrible year with. What could go wrong?
Yeah. Well said.
Love this Dune. I know they have big plans for this. They are doing a spin-off show as well with HBO Max for Dune that's going to be out in 2021 as well. I think it's focusing on the sisterhood. So that's going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting as far as the aspect, can they make Dune a tentpole franchise in the United States? This is going to be a very interesting experiment to see how this plays out. But you know what? I got the hosts of some great podcasts here, and I would be remiss if we didn't get a little podcast-specific questions going on here. And I want to start with you, Mr. Hadley, with some Doctor Who news. It's been few and far between, but there has been making the rounds lately, and I need you to see if there's confirmation on this or not. Is the Doctor returning to Christmas Day?
I was going to say he might be, she might be. Doctor Who might be back on Christmas Day. Now, that's a big might. It's really up in the air at the moment, and there's nothing confirmed. There is a special. We know there's a special. We've known about this special for a year now, nearly. It was filmed last October, so we've always known about this special. But which day will it be broadcast on? Of course, if it is broadcast on Christmas Day in the UK, it will almost certainly be broadcast on Christmas Day all over the world. Now, Doctor Who has had a terrible time of it in the last 18 months to 2 years. You probably know that. But, this is a fresh episode. And I don't think anybody would have wanted this to happen as regards TV and film production generally. The fact is hardly anything else has been made. The BBC has next to nothing else in the can to put on at Christmas and New Year. That's not the ideal way to get your premiere time slot back, but take it. And I hope that if they do get the Christmas Day slot back with this, that this episode is absolutely top of the game good, because the ratings in this country and in America have been, they've really slid in the last 18 months. So I'm hoping that maybe one good special that unites and entertains for the whole family on the biggest TV day of the year. Even now, it's still the biggest TV day of the year. I hope they pull it together, and I hope it does the trick, because, I still believe in Doctor Who. Of course I do.
Yeah, Kevin, I know for me, Doctor Who almost became like a Christmas tradition. So last year when it was on, last couple of years, it's been New Year's Day, and it just doesn't feel quite as right. I love Doctor Who on Christmas. Like Dan said, it's been a little up and down with the Jodie.
It's been one of the greatest traditions for a historical franchise to do something like that.
Yeah, how they voluntarily gave up that slot. Chris Chibnall, who's the current showrunner, he didn't want to have a Christmas Day special anymore, which I don't know where he was at with that. But yes, they could be about. I think you'd have to be. It's one thing to try and be bold creatively, to do something different. Perhaps I should applaud that. But I think even he would realise that it was a bad move for the show, that people loved that you were just talking about, Kevin, that's where Doctor Who could be found every holiday period. Everybody knew where it was on Christmas Day. Giving up that was very foolhardy. If they've got it back, absolutely brilliant. Let's have Daleks on Christmas Day. Try and get the whole family back around the TV again.
Yeah. No, I gotta say, for me, every Christmas I at least go back and watch the first Matt Smith Christmas Doctor Who, because that one is amazing. Kevin, I know you kind of fly your TARDIS a little bit around the peripheral of Doctor Who. You are aware of it. You do watch it on occasion, but I know even you are aware of how important it is on Christmas.
Oh yeah, I'm actually kind of jealous of it because of being a fan of so many other fandoms. It's nice that Star Wars has their Star Wars Day, May the 4th. There is technically a Star Trek Day, but there's something that is celebrated specifically for the Christmas Day thing with Doctor Who, that really, because there's not a lot going on that you can watch on Christmas that's outside of the normal stuff that you would normally see. But when it comes to fandom, the only thing that we celebrate Star Wars wise is the holiday special, but that technically aired in November, so that we celebrate it then. So I love this tradition. It is great. It gives it's a family time of the year, and why not celebrate it with Doctor Who, with one of the best traditions in fandom?
I think
Yeah.
as Brits, we forget that because Doctor Who getting its Christmas special, which you now see as this big tradition. Doctor Who for a long time, for decades in fact, certainly when I was a kid in the 70s and the 80s, Doctor Who was the only TV show that didn't have a Christmas special. Christmas specials of British TV shows, dramas, game shows, comedies, variety shows. They're a big, big tradition over here. All shows have them. And so that's why, although the Doctor Who one has been really, really important and for quite a long period of time, it's one of a menu of 15 to 20 of similar shows in any of those genres. But of course, none of those break internationally the way that Doctor Who's did. And none of them, most especially, for our purposes, none of the other shows are in this genre. They're all, as I've said, comedies, or things like Call the Midwife, like a drama, which I gather does have an international sort of appeal. But that always gets the Christmas special. So do a couple of our sitcoms over here. So the Doctor Who one, having that family feel, it is fairly unique. If they have got a chance to bring it back and bring it back regularly, my God, I hope they grab it with both hands.
Yeah. Kevin, I want to switch things over to you because there's some Highlander doesn't get a lot of new stuff. I mean, obviously Adrian Paul with his sword experience all over the world is getting more and more attention, but you don't get a lot of new Highlander stuff. But a good friend of our network has got something new Highlander coming out, and it's grabbing people's attention.
Yeah, it has, and I feel especially close to this project for several reasons. My fiance Erin and I are big fans of Highlander, and Highlander was the thing that brought us together. We ended up meeting for the first time in London of 2016 after she had done her own Highlander pilgrimage up to Scotland. I was doing it a few weeks later, and we met up through Highlander Heart, actually. Thank you, Grant Kempster. And we just kind of started chatting back and forth. I was asking her for advice, and then we met in London, and the rest is history. We returned to Scotland 2 years later, and we met up with Jonathan Melville, author, and he was working on a project that immediately caught my attention for the Blooded Kings Highlander podcast and the fandom group there. And what Jonathan has been working on for the last several years, and it's weird because when Highlander had its 30th anniversary in 2016, God, can you imagine 30 years? Aaron went there because they were holding a special screening of the Highlander 30th anniversary 4K restoration edition. She got tickets for that in Edinburgh, which is where Clancy Brown was. Clancy Brown has kind of distanced himself from Highlander for many years, but he opened up his arms again. They welcomed him. He brought his entire family there. But Jonathan Melville was also there because he had an idea. I want to write a book about the original 1986 Highlander movie and the making of. Can I do this? And he said to himself, if I can get an interview with Clancy Brown, who has not been around the Highlander fandom for a long time, I think I've got a chance. And he was there. He interviewed him. Then he decided, I think I can do this. Well, now here we are, present day. And I'm so proud of Jonathan Melville. We've had him on Blooded King several times talking about this project. He has finally finished his book. It has been published through Polaris Publishing in Scotland. And he has released a book about the making of the original Highlander. And what's great is he did over 60 interviews of the stars, the people that worked behind the camera, that worked on the sets, the costumer. It is amazing how much time and work that he has put into this. And I got to actually meet Jonathan in person when Aaron and I were there in 2018. I interviewed him at a local cinema, and we had a great time catching up and talking to him and meeting him. He's a wonderful guy. He actually interviewed me as well for Blooded Kings. He put me in that book as well as Highlander Rewatch, the other guys who've been holding the torch for Highlander fandom. He's talked to Grant Kempster, John Mosby as well. And it is, if you're a Highlander fan specifically of that movie, this is the book that you have to get. It's called A Kind of Magic, The Making of Highlander. And I just got notification as of this recording. Mine is in the mail. And so if you're listening to this, I don't know if they're still available, but there's a certain limited amount. If you pre-order through Polaris Publishing, you get an extra companion booklet with some extra great photos, because he not only got great interviews, he got a lot of photos from these people that work from behind the scenes that have not been published. So shout out to Mr. Jonathan Melville. This is a huge deal for him. We're very proud of him here at the Fandom Podcast Network and Blood of Kings.
Yep. Dan, you've had Mr. Melville on Type 40 as well, have you not?
Yeah, I was just thinking, it is such an extraordinary achievement, this book. And, to hear him talking about it all this time, and to hear you talking about it on Blood of Kings, obviously, and covering the whole journey, but also following Jonathan on social media. And yeah, he's been on Type 40 twice now. He's a huge Doctor Who fan. We had him on to talk about the Sylvester McCoy era of the late 1980s. Great guy with a brilliant sense of humour and a head full of knowledge and anecdotes. If he's channeled that into this book, however many pages it is, and 60 interviews, my God. I've heard all this stuff before, but every time I hear it again, it's still impressive. This book is absolutely unmissable.
It is, and I just want to mention on his behalf, you can follow the book and Jonathan Melville. Jonathan Melville is obviously on Twitter, but also A Kind of Magic, The Making of Highlander, is also on Twitter, and it has his own Facebook group. He's been posting some videos when he first opened up the box of the book. He's been posting some pictures that are in the book, and been teasing stuff. So if you want to learn more about the book and what's happening, follow that book on Facebook with that Facebook group, and obviously on Twitter, and Jonathan Melville on Twitter as well.
Yep. Jonathan's a great guy. Very proud of him for this. I hope this book does well. Get out there, support it. If you're a fan of Highlander, this is a must-have book. Guys, real quick, I want to just get through a little rapid fire. I'm just going to throw out a couple things. Just give me some quick thoughts. First and foremost, I want to talk about Supergirl. Supergirl, of course, the CW show. Arrow ended recently with this last season. It's been announced that the current season of Supergirl that will be coming out, the 6th season, will be the final season. Are we starting to see the end of this CW DC universe? Kevin, what do you think?
It's hard to say. You've been following a lot closer than I have, but I got to tell you, what the CW has done for the DC universe has been amazing. The fact that they're getting 6 seasons of a show like this, I think, is great. It's kind of interesting to see if this is a sign of the times of what they're planning on doing, but I got to give it up to that channel, what they've done for that universe. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, they've done a phenomenal job. Arrow went 8 seasons. Who would have thought you would have had 8 seasons of a Green Arrow show? Stephen Amell is amazing with that. Melissa Benoist, she just recently had she actually recently had a child too. That's part of her decision in doing this. She wants to be a mom a little bit more. But Dan, what do you think? Do you think this is going to be the end of the CW? It feels like it is in a state of transition.
Yeah, I didn't realize that she'd had a child until a couple of days ago. Melissa Benoist.
Yeah.
She, loads of star quality, very, very likable. And this show, 6 years is a great run. I didn't expect it to end for a little while, because of the longer time that Arrow was on. But yes, it does strike me that, when this show ends, will they replace it with something else? Because we've got a Superman show starting soon. But one by one, these shows are going to reach natural conclusion for one reason or another. And I was just wondering, with the rise of HBO Max and Doom Patrol and Titans going on over there, and Stargirl being so successful, what's going to happen? Are they going to start directing some of those shows or some of the replacements for those shows over to HBO Max, just so they can expand even more? Because the only drawback with having so many shows on is, I suppose, it's the fact that tonally they cover a lot of the same ground. And it's better, I believe it's better to quit when you're on top with something like this, rather than to carry on, to hang around, pumping this stuff out like a sausage factory to the point where people are tired of the formula. So, I really respect what Greg Berlanti's done on all these shows and how he's brought through, because I'm a DC guy. Sorry, Marvelites, I'm a DC guy. So the fact that he's brought so many characters, some B, C, and D-list characters to television, sometimes weekly. I've just been in awe of the entire thing. I'm excited to see what comes next. But yeah, thank you, Melissa, and everybody else on Supergirl, because whatever else you think of the show, 6 years concentrated superhero action, it's got to be applauded.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this is congratulations to Supergirl. Supergirl's had a big impact on a lot of different communities and really a lot of young women. I know it's also very popular with the LBGT community as well. Also, very interesting history as it started on CBS and then jumped to the CW. So there's that.
I always forget that it's very big with Martians as well, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard that. Kevin,
I just want to give a shout out to my friend Sean Dempsey. His daughter loves that show. They've bonded over that show, and they got to meet Melissa. And it's like you said, it has a huge fandom following.
Yeah. I do think, however, this is not the end of the CW. I think there is a transition going on. You have a new Batwoman coming into play, but I think the big thing is this is also a passing of the baton for who's going to carry the female lead of the CW, and that's because Stargirl has become such a hit. And I think that show is becoming immensely popular. It's going to be strictly on the CW now instead of sharing with the DC Universe app. I think that there's a place for these shows on the CW and still having HBO Max shows that like Titans and Doom Patrol that have a little bit more of the adult themes to them. But I don't think the CW is going anywhere. Black Lightning is a phenomenal show. Legends of Tomorrow is still going strong. A lot of good things going on there. Lastly, real quick, Netflix had a couple of big science fiction cancellations. Kevin, we lost Altered Carbon, which I was a huge fan of, and I'm even more disappointed that they've canceled the Dark Crystal show.
Yeah, regarding Altered Carbon, it didn't hit with everybody. I noticed that. I watched the first few episodes of season 1. It didn't quite grab me. The concept was cool. Visually, it was good. The talent that they got for it was amazing. But I think it's just one of those things where it kind of flew underneath the radar, didn't quite grab the masses. And I think that's probably what eventually ended its low downloads or however they keep track of the streaming hits and stuff like that.
Yeah. Dan, I was highly disappointed to hear the Dark Crystal show got canceled.
Yeah. I'll hold my hands up here, everybody, that both of these shows have been on my list for so long that I've now got 2 shows on my list which have been axed. With the Dark Crystal in particular, I was really shocked because that seems so popular. In fact, I understand that it's up for a couple of really quite major awards. And the people who loved it seemed to, from my perspective, as somebody who's not bloody watched it, it seemed to pull off the impossible and to please the people who love the Dark Crystal and that whole world since they were children or in the intervening decades, and find a new audience as well. So I'm surprised Netflix have done that. I think they may end up regretting it. Something like Altered Carbon, from what I know of it, very literate show, that's going to have a limited appeal anyway. Perhaps, as I was saying earlier on, perhaps they've taken it as far as it can go, telling those kinds of stories to the audience that it's capable of reaching where it is. I'm not entirely sure about that. That did surprise me too, because I know there's a lot of other source material, but as you said, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I get why.
Yeah. Kevin?
Question real quick. On the Dark Crystal, it was also on my list to watch. And I think that there's been so much streaming competition over the last 6 months, especially with COVID, that I've been meaning to watch it and finish it because it's in my wheelhouse. I love the original film. The cast behind it was amazing. We've talked about it. I think I watched the first episode. I meant to continue doing it just because I wanted to see what it was about. But apparently there's so many people like us that are like, well, it's on streaming. It's on streaming. I can always go back to it. And then when Netflix makes these judgments like Fox does in the 90s and 2000s, not enough streaming hits, let's cancel it. I'm like, oh, now should I go back and watch it? I don't know what to do.
It's audience complacency, Kyle, and we are part of the problem.
Well, I think in the Dark Crystal's case, I think a certain mouse might end up being involved in this. Disney has a great relationship with the Henson family. I would not be surprised to see the Dark Crystal resurface on Disney Plus within the next year or so. This show won an Emmy and then got canceled literally the day after it won an Emmy. So there's that. With that, though, we're going to take a quick break, let you hear what else is going on around the Fandom Podcast Network, and then we're going to come back with our feature presentation. So you might be wondering what that is, but we'll explain.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to the Fandom Podcast Network and all of the other awesome shows we have to offer. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, our weekly pop culture news podcast. Blood of Kings, our Highlander podcast. Couch Potato Theater, our podcast celebrating our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite pop culture topics. End Zone, the NFL podcast. Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville podcast. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our Doctor Who podcast. Lethal Mullet, a 1980s and 90s action film podcast. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast. And our newest show, Making Treks, a new Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. You can enjoy all of these great Fandom Podcast Network shows on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Apple Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can also find us on Facebook under Fandom Podcast Network. You can also email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter under Fandom Podcast Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Welcome back to the Fandom Show. Hopefully you guys are enjoying what we're doing here. We're still working out the kinks and the bugs, but hey, that's what you do when you start something new. But what we want to do now is take you into our feature presentation. This is our big topic of the day. We're going to spend a little time, do a little more deep dive into this. We've got a lot of things going on, but I wanted to focus on, gentlemen, what we're looking forward to the rest of 2020. It's been a rough year. A lot of things have been postponed to 2021, but there are still several things floating out there that as we get closer to the holidays, as we get closer to the end of the year, and hopefully things with COVID are kind of letting up a little bit and we can start doing a few more things. I want to know what some of the things are that you guys are looking forward to with the rest of for the remainder of 2020. What's on your radar? What are you going to hit? Whether it's maybe getting back to a theater to see a movie, maybe it's a TV show or a comic or something along those lines. Kevin, I know there's something really big that you're incredibly looking forward to come November.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on Tenet real quick. Theaters have not opened up here in Southern California yet, and I want to see this on the big screen. It's gotten mixed reviews from people that we know from the network and stuff like that, but visually, I really want to see what this is about. I want to see what Nolan has done with this and judge it for myself. I'm actually, even some of the reviews have been lukewarm. I still want to see this thing. I'm excited because I'm a theater going person. I love that experience. But of all the stuff, and we recently talked about this on an episode of Culture Clash of what we think is still coming out at the end of the year.
I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. But the one thing that I am most excited about, and one of my favorite projects on literature projects, and for those of you that know me, I don't read. Let's be honest. I don't read through a full book all the time. There's a few things that I make an exception for because I'm more visually and audibly inspired. Jonathan Melville's book, though, I'm making an exception for that. But the book that I have listened to on audio more than I think any other audio book in my lifetime, and I got into audiobooks with the Star Wars stuff in the 90s and through the Harry Potter series, which is fantastic, read by Jim Dale. The book that I've listened to, I've lost count now, but I've listened to the original Ready Player One book read by Will Wheaton, probably going on 25, 30 times now. Okay. I will throw that in my car. I will throw that on my iPod as I'm biking or whatever. I love that story. I even love the movie interpretation directed by Steven Spielberg. But the sequel, Ready Player 2, hits November 24th, and the audiobook is going to be available, read by Will Wheaton. This, for me personally, is the thing that I am looking forward the most because we know it's not going to be pushed back because of COVID because it's a book. It's an audio book. It doesn't need to go to theaters. This is the thing I am most excited about. I can't wait.
Kevin, can I ask you a question then? I'm somebody, I quite liked the film. I've never read the book, but I quite liked the film. I thought it was okay. It's Spielberg. Of course it was okay. But it's one of those films I forget whether I've watched it or not. It seemed to sort of disappear. Would I be better off trying the audiobook?
You haven't listened to the audiobook yet?
No.
Okay, yeah. Trust me.
Yeah.
Go to the audiobook. You gotta. If you are a reader of books, that's fine.
There's
But go to the audiobook because Will Wheaton is phenomenal reading this book, and he's become the muse of the author, Ernest Cline, because he also did the other book he did, Armada, which is kind of like a cross between Last Starfighter, Contact, and it's a great story. But you need to listen to the audiobook. Trust me, the story is so good.
So
a lot of people complain that
rather than just reads it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and to do this story properly on video, you need to do like a 10-episode thing on Netflix or something like that.
It could be something along those lines because, like I say, I didn't hate the film, not by a long chalk. But
you're going to be amazed by the book if you did enjoy the movie, because I treated the movie differently going into it, and I'm glad that I did. But they just kind of summed everything up in 2 hours. This book needs your time. Do it. Do yourself a fandom favor. I'm going to say, Dan, listen to it.
Fandom favor. I love that fandom favor. That could be a great slot on this show.
Copyrighted by Kevin Reitzel.
Yep. Fandom favor. Do it.
Yes, the gold stuff keeps coming.
Yeah. Dan, what about you? What is something with the remainder of the year that you got tagged that you're hoping to be able to check out, whether it's streaming or movies or what?
Only one thing. And let's face it, there's not a great deal of competition. Only one thing. 007. Every time. James Bond, No Time to Die. I'm convinced, almost convinced, we are going to maybe possibly get to see it within the next couple of months. Please, God, I'm a huge James Bond fan, almost as big a Bond fan as I am a Doctor Who fan. Love it. I've been in agony all year waiting for this damn film. Finally looks, they're adamant they're not going to move this date. Some fans are pushing them as of time of recording this. Some fans are pushing for them to move it because obviously there is a gambit here where it's almost certainly not going to make back the kind of money where a film of that scale used to. But certainly not in the first few weeks. But these are different times. We need cheering up. We need some escapism. We need some Bond swagger, some action. The girls, the guns, the cars. Yes, give me some Bond. For crying out loud, give me some Bond.
I think you want some Bond, Kevin.
That was near the top of my list. I can't wait either.
Yeah, no, I am incredibly excited for James Bond. I'm incredibly excited for Ready Player 2. But there's a couple things on my list I'm really excited for. But I want to talk about something that I was incredibly excited for that now I'm going to have to wait. And that's because we were all excited for Black Widow and Marvel did it to us again. I understand their reasonings for doing this. But yes, Marvel has just basically pushed everything Phase 4 back to 2021. Black Widow will now be out in May 7th of 2021, which is basically a full year from its original release date. Everything else has been pushed back. Now we've even kind of flip-flopped a couple movies because the Shang-Chi movie now is going to come out before Eternals comes out, and Eternals was supposed to come out before Shang-Chi. So that's a little depressing, but there are a couple things I'm still very much looking forward to. Obviously, we talked to Mandalorian and Dune earlier in the show. Christmas Day, Wonder Woman 1984. I love the first film. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is right there with Linda Carter. I'm not going to say she's ahead of Linda Carter because that's sacrilege, but but she is amazing in this role. I cannot wait for this film. This is going to be fun. I'm glad that we're still hitting. It's going to be a great Christmas present that day. Pedro Pascal, Chris Pine returning. Kristen Wiig looks phenomenal as the cheetah. I cannot wait. This is going to be just fun, and it's going to be the kind of movie we need. A couple other things I'm looking forward to. The Ryan Reynolds film Free Guy, finally coming out, looks like December 11th here in the U.S. A lot of people have forgotten about this film because we haven't seen that trailer in so long. But it's going to be Ryan Reynolds cranked up to 11, Kevin. And,
Yeah, this is one of those roles that he's perfect for, and it looks so entertaining. And who didn't play a multi, huge game, and you see all these people that are just kind of walk around the background, as non-player characters. What if one of those was alive and affected your game?
What about you, Dan? Wonder Woman. I mean, I see you all in on Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah. I'll have some of that.
Dan, you're not excited enough. Come on, show me how excited you are.
Gal Gadot is, in my opinion, a real movie star. How movie stars used to be. She's incredible on screen, but dignified, classy, and beautiful when not on screen. Apart from that video where she was singing, we'll forget about that. We all have our off days. Everything else, in every respect, I just think she's absolutely wonderful. This character is a glove fit for her. Probably my favourite all time. Certainly the very first superhero that I was interested in and into. And yes, because that was the Linda Carter era too. But no, that original film 3 years ago, whenever it was, just incredible. And if this film is even half as good, and I'm convinced it will match it. I've just got faith in this movie. And she's at the end of the day, she's the right actress in the right part. All the stars certainly seem to be still in alignment to me. And it's set in the 80s, and I think I've got two like-minded people here. I've never really left the 80s anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, this is Wonder Woman coming home. This is Wonder Woman meeting me, not even halfway, coming the whole.
I want my parachute pants back. I won't be able to fit into them, but I want them back.
Yes. I'll be there. Be there first day.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. There's a few other things I want to throw out. As far as me personally, I'm looking forward to WandaVision, which probably will be out. It might be a Christmas present as well, because I think it's going to start up. Mandalorian ends on December 18th. I think we see WandaVision out shortly thereafter. I'm really excited for that. I'm actually, it just hit the new Millie Bobby Brown film with she's playing Sherlock Holmes' sister, and of course Henry Cavill is playing Sherlock Holmes in this as well. So I'm hearing good things. I'm anxious to check that out. Star Trek Discovery returns in October. So we've got some things. Kevin, is there anything else that you want to highlight on here that's remaining in 2020?
There's a lot of good stuff on there, but just kind of a guilty pleasure that's scheduled, Coming to America too.
You don't have to feel guilty about that first film.
Yeah, I kind of want to see where those characters are in the last 35, whatever years that this comes out. And that's coming out December 18th. At least that's what it's scheduled for.
Yes.
I love that movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing where those characters are at.
What about you, Mr. Hadley? Anything else? Is there anything going on over in your neck of the woods that might be exclusive to that area that you're?
Well, I don't know about exclusive, but I'm very excited about the HBO series His Dark Materials coming back, which is made. That's a co-production with the BBC, but the BBC doesn't do a huge amount. They're not really involved to a huge extent. It's a production of Bad Wolf Productions. Julie Gardner, who used to be the producer of Doctor Who. Bad Wolf is her production company, and she makes it with HBO. His Dark Materials was, for me, the standout TV show of last year on British television, the Philip Pullman adaptation. I'm not sure how many books there are. I think there's 4 or 5 now. I know he's still writing them, but I think they're sort of out of sequence. So this is series 2. They filmed the bulk of it before COVID, a year or so ago. And the same cast from the first series looks set to be returning. People like Ruth Wilson are in it, James McAvoy, and all those big names. But the main principal cast, a couple of really great child actors, and it's all in there, fantasy and reality sort of mixed together. And it really did affect me last year. I found it thrilling. I found it engaging. I found it heartbreaking at times. And it's real world-class telly being made in Britain, okay, with HBO's money, but it still counts. It's sort of British. So that should be starting, I think, early November time.
Yeah.
So we know that's coming.
I need to go back and revisit season 1. I never got around to finishing it. I think part of the problem for me was that every time it came on, all I imagined was Professor Xavier and X-23 running around. Because but I got to shout out with you. You talk about the child actors. Daphne Keane, who played X-23 in the Logan film, is phenomenal, and she is going to be a superstar.
It's an incredible performance that she gives in that. Easily the equal of any of. She's got some heavyweight actors around her, and God, she is there. She steps right up. Yeah, brilliant performance. Got a long future ahead of him, no doubt at all.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this. I'm excited for what we got coming remaining in 2020. But you know what, guys, we're going to wrap up things here. But I want to give each of everybody here a chance to express some final thoughts or share something that maybe we didn't talk about on the show that you want to talk about. Mr. Hadley, you were the one who came up with this brilliant idea, and it is a brilliant idea. So I want to let you have first shot at this. What is a final thought you want to share with everybody out there watching on the YouTube channel?
Just that I think I've talked about everything genre-wise, but yeah, just if you enjoy what the Fandom Podcast Network does for your ears, this is the Fandom Podcast Network doing it for your eyes too. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop us a few comments. You may think that some of what we've said, that we've missed out some big things for the rest of 2020. So if we have, do us a favour, do three old boys a favour, drop us a comment, let us know what we should be watching, what's not on our radar, and yeah, fuel this. The Fandom Show includes not just everybody who you're going to see on this today or see on subsequent shows, but it's you guys too. So yes, support the network, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a bit of a dress rehearsal show. When we go full live with this, we want the people in the chat to be interacting who are watching. We want to hear your thoughts and ideas.
Oh yeah, we'll be shouting you guys out and in the fandom on the comment section in YouTube, because we want to include you guys, and especially if the fans out there that are watching this live have something they want to share, we can do that live on this show. We may have missed something that's important that we need to bring out to fandom, and if we can include you guys in with our family even more that way and get you involved, that's one of the things I'm really excited about with this YouTube channel. We've been experimenting with this and having some fun with it recently on Culture Clash, and of course our End Zone thing as well, and we did the live Karate Kid as well on Couch Potato Theater, and that was fun. So I'm just really excited. I'm really excited to share this with you guys and to get different perspectives. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed from people that, like, I guested on a podcast, a football podcast for the Raiders last night, and he says, Kevin, every time I see you posting stuff, you're posting shows about this, and this. You guys cover all kinds of stuff. I said, yeah, that's what Kyle and I originally wanted to do. We wanted to have a network to not just talk about one thing. If we were excited about more than one thing, we wanted to share that with people. And then we surrounded ourselves with wonderful talent like you, Dan. You've taken the ball and run with it when it comes to your Spacebook group. And of course, Type 40, a Doctor Who fan club or fandom podcast. This is what we envisioned, and we're so thankful to you, Dan, and our listeners and everyone else that's been part of the Fandom Podcast Network family who've contributed with their shows and their guest spots.
Yeah, I'm going to echo those thoughts too with my final thought. Kevin and I started this network about 5 years ago now, Kevin. That's hard to believe in itself.
Yeah.
Little Dragon Con, a little conversation. As some of you have heard this story, and the next thing we know, we're here. We've been a constantly growing and morphing network. We've had some people come. We've had some great new voices come in. We've had people leave. Of course, one of our co-founders, Norman Lau, who is always going to be family here. We've got wonderful people involved, whether it's you guys, whether it's Scott and Derek over and Nathan over at What a Piece of Junk, Adam O'Brien, the guys over at Good Evening, Chris, Tom, Brandon, of course. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our ladies over at the Union Federation, Haley Stoddart, Amy Nelson, when she can make an appearance on Union Federation. And we still don't let Haley man the weapons console. It's scary. Trust me. We've had people, voices, Lee Fillings that's coming in for Norman on Blood of Kings. Everything you do with hair metal, Kevin, and the great guests you've had on, Johnny K, who's become basically part of the family here and is a wonderful director.
Now an award-winning horror film director.
Yes. So
check out The Killer of Grassy Ridge on YouTube. It has won so many awards. It's only a 9-minute short, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. But you know what? We've been through a very hard year with 2020, and what we've tried to do here at the Fandom Podcast Network is give you a place where you don't have to hear about it. We're just here trying to have fun, feed your ears with some positivity, feed your ears with some fun stuff. I'll be honest, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes there's been a lack of stuff. There's been stuff to talk about. Things get to all of us. We're all human here. But you know what? The idea is we come here as a family. We come here to unite people. We cover, like Kevin said, part of the idea of covering as many things as we try to cover is because everybody loves everything, and you don't have to love all of it. You have your thing, that's great. That's the point of fandom. And that leads me to closing out the show saying thank you everybody for checking it out. We hope you enjoy this. This is going to be a once a month exclusive on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. So again, please subscribe, give us a like. If you subscribe, you get notified that when we do fun stuff like this. But thanks to Dan, who created this idea. Thanks to Kevin for being my co-partner in this for the last 5 years. And you know what? I think it's appropriate. I say this at the end of Culture Clash. Pick your fandom, enjoy your fandom. And as the prophets say, be excellent to each other. And seriously, folks, enjoy your fandom.